Hi, this is 72 Day Star, and I'm out and about doing some bird watching on my way into the market, and I thought I'd stop and make a video here because I can watch the Gyeongchon stream and do a video at the same time. So it's kind of two birds with one stone. Talking about spirituality and talking about the idea that spirituality can help sometimes in the context of culture-bound disorders. A culture-bound disorder is a disorder that's specific to a culture. There are some, for example, anorexia and bulimia. You don't find that in Africa. No surprise there. It's something that typically only happens in advanced industrialized cultures where you have both the pressure to be physically attractive and you have the abundance of food. So it doesn't tend to crop up in, Southeast Asia so much. It might, which would be unfortunate. So that's one example. Another example here is Shin-byung. In Korea, the Shin refers to a spirit or a ghost, and byung is a contraction of the word for disease. So it's a ghost disease or spirit disease, but it's not your spirit that's sick. It's that a spirit has come in and adhered itself to you, and it can cause it can harm you in a number of different ways. So typically it goes after they've gone to the doctor or gone to an acupuncturist. In here, we're talking about in acupuncture in South Korea is mainstream. That's still mainstream medicine here. So if you've exhausted those avenues, and there's maybe some other peculiar things happening, and so you consult the modang, or I think the male counterpart is baksu, but it's more common actually that it's a female that plays this role, which is an interesting phenomenon in and of itself. So what happens is the mudang will come in, and if they're legitimate, they'll decide whether they'll take the case or not. So if they're not sure if they can help, they won't take the case. But if they can, there's usually an all-day ceremony. They put out food for both the living and the dead. And what happens is there's a lengthy ceremony that involves chanting, participatory. It's interactive with the audience. So the mudang will get the audience to participate to help to urge the spirit to go out and move on to the spirit world and leave this mortal alone. So very interesting, but the interesting thing is it has some key elements of empirically backed therapeutic methods, like group therapy, where you have a person who becomes the focus of the group and people start, urging and persuading and giving them advice and encouraging them. That works. No surprise there. But these elements are part of this ceremony. So not surprisingly, it does have a positive effect. And when you have people who have Shin-byung, they can get well from that. And in the case of my wife's father, he had an ache that came on acutely in his leg and some other peculiar behaviors that made his wife decide to call in the mudang to do this ceremony. And it was an all-day affair, but by the end of the day, during what was described as a sort of knife dance near the end of the ceremony, after several hours, my wife's father got up and joined the dance, and the dance involves this sort of pogoing on their legs. So where he had a leg that had been so sore that he couldn't walk on it, and now he was pogoing like Iggy Pop at a gig, and apparently healed. So there seems to be, some of these culture-bound disorders, it seems like there is something legitimately wrong, that the person senses that there's something legitimately wrong, and they get this prescribed procedure that is therapeutic and in many cases does work. But it's just that the explanation, for the same reasons as when if you say, "Oh, I'm depressed." Well, why are you depressed? Well, it's because I'm ugly and no one loves me. Well, you're ugly and no one loved you yesterday, but you weren't depressed then. So it's sort of, let me flesh out this analogy. You think my leg is paining and I feel awed because there's a spirit adhering to me. So we'll get a ceremony that will take out that spirit and I'll feel better. Or I feel depressed because no one loves me and I'm ugly. That may be just as illegitimate and just as meaningless to the process. But the effect, the positive effect, is that you do this procedure that makes you get over the fact that you're ugly and no one loves you and move on, and you feel less depressed. Parallel and analogous to that, there's not really, I don't believe anyways that there was really a spirit involved here, but the process of the ceremony that helps. There's several different types of good. I don't recall the specific one that is used to remove spirits, but this is performed. But there are therapeutic elements within this ceremony, such that the spirit can move out of the body, and I think that's a very interesting phenomenon. And it's one reason why I think I might be a little bit more sympathetic to the idea that some of these ceremonies in religions they don't do what they claim they're doing, but they still can have a positive effect on people. So that's my thoughts for the day. And anyways, give me another 2 weeks and I might come up with a better, even better video than this. 72 Day Star out.